All right, folks, we'll get started here. I assume more people will trickle in, but we have 180, so that's a good turnout. So, welcome to the CMS training for contract administrators. We've run this course a few times before. This is an updated version with a couple updates with new apps, new information. Other than that, it will be kind of a refresher course for those who've taken it before. We'll go over some general functionality training and then get into the individual apps. We'll cover MLT, change management, dispute resolution, invoicing, all that good stuff. Excuse me. My name's Ryan McCarricker. I'm team lead for Business Solutions section, focusing on CMS. I do a lot of the training here. We'll also be on with Eric Donahue, who's our MLT lead. Right here, also from the Business Solutions section. He designed the MLT suite for the most part and manages that. This session is going to be recorded. It's already recording automatically. We're going to post it for future training. And I'll show you at the end of the session where you can access those videos in CMS. So questions can be taken at the end of each module or chapter. So at the end of each app that we cover, it's going to be very repetitive. It'll be slideshows and then a demo and then questions, slideshow, demo, questions. We find that tends to cement things pretty well. You can use the chat function or you can raise your hand to submit questions. Virtual training is a great way to reach a large audience, but I recognize that it comes with its distractions too. So just try and stay focused. It's going to be a fast moving training session. Not too fast, but we do have a lot to cover. So I understand emails and whatnot are going to come in, but that's why we record it too. You can always refer back to it later if you miss a spot or you have to take a phone call or anything like that. And again, I'll show you where to access those videos at the end of the session. This is our support. So all support emails, questions, comments, concerns, issues should go to mtocms@ontario.ca. This is our main triage help desk. This is the help desk that MTO runs. If we can't solve it for you, it goes to a second tier, which is run by KPMG, our main vendor, our partner with CMS. And if they can't solve it, it goes to a third tier with Kahua engineers who own the platform. And they actually came up with Kahua and run Kahua. So they get into it and get involved too to disentangle issues if the first two tiers can't solve it. We also have CMS updates that come out periodically, issued by our team with helpful information, tips, tricks, updates, new apps, new bugs that we've encountered, bug fixes that we've accomplished, whatever information we find is valuable to the user. We issue to every licensed user in CMS. So if you have access to CMS, you will receive this update via email. We also maintain an archive, which I can show you at the end of the training session too, that we post to MTO technical publications along with all the updates. So there's an archive where every single update topic is pasted in and categorized and alphabetized. So you can search through, there's over 300 entries of updates that we've issued since going live in February 2023. So you can look there for lots of good information. So you go to technical publications, technical documents, and then that's going to open up. There's a CMS tab in there with all the good information for you. And then for internal MTO users, we also have a SharePoint in the bottom right there with some training and training videos and slides and everything. So general functionality. So the CMS team recommends using the desktop app. The browser app has made strides in getting better over the last year or so, or maybe year and a half. I still rely on the desktop app. I should fire mine up right now. Yeah, right here. So I've got it pinned to my desktop. You can sign in quickly, and I find it tends to work pretty quickly. But you can also use the browser app just by going to this website right here, the bottom right. So let's go through a quick demo here. Oh. First, you sign in. MTO users use a single sign-on or an SSO sign-on, so it uses our computer credentials to log in, so we don't need to enter a password. It's kind of nice that way. External users will have to do a third-party or a multi-factor authentication with either an authenticator app or email, or I think text message. This is what you see when you log in. Here's the banner that we've posted to advertise the training. So you'll see things advertised by us here or information coming out that we can post up here. This will be your most recent projects that you've been in, so you can quickly click into those if you need to. You've got your tasks down here and your unread messages down here. Up in the top right, you've got your initials here, so RM. You click that and you've got some options here. You can sign out, you can turn on dark theme, or you can go to my settings. There's a few settings in here that are important. Copying your inbound emails that include inbox@kahua.com to my inbox and send copy of received messages to my email. If you turn those on, you will get a lot more notification emails to your email, like open tasks or any messages you receive. Generally, a task will come with a message. So if you send copy of received messages to my email, you will get an email for every task you receive. Profiles, this is important too for the Road Report 2.0. CAs need to put their phone number in the direct field here, and that's what populates the road report. You can fill out your name, your title, your company. You shouldn't change that because that links to your domain. I'm not sure if the end user can even change those, but you can change your prefix and everything. Upload a picture if you like. And then your signature. This is important for DOFMA and time extensions like compensation requests, change proposals, everything like that. You need a 4-digit PIN to approve DOFMA items, and you probably should upload a photo of your signature or a scan of your signature so that when you approve something, your signature gets put up there. That's the settings. So over on the left here, we have our taskbar. You can right click and pin things to your taskbar. So I've got a bunch of things pinned here that I use regularly: report manager, change management, compensation request, reconciliation. I like to keep things pinned there, and then I don't have to go into the app finder too often. But if you don't have something pinned there, you go to app finder, these 9 little dots. You can either keyword search something or go to all apps. You can see all the apps we have in here. We've got over 90 integrated apps in the system, all working together, or a lot of them working together. Some of them standalone. Some of them are out of the box apps that we use, like Extracts. Media Manager is you can upload all the photos and attach things to different apps. But that's how you can find it, or you can just come in here and search compensation and get compensation requests. Right below the app finder is this little man sitting down. That's the project tree. So this is how your project finder. This is how you find different projects. Most people aren't going to be placed at the provincial level, but I'm seeing all this because I'm at the top domain level. So underneath the Ontario Ministry of Transportation umbrella, there's a few different partitions here. We've got training and testing, major highway projects division, and then we're going to click into TIMD. Then you can see the 5 regions here. You can see all the different projects we have in here. We've got hundreds of projects. There's over 2,500 projects in CMS dating back to WBCMS migrated projects. So you click into one of the regions and then you get into your projects here. Or you can just click the magnifying glass up here and keyword search a project. Up here, so this is the project you're actually in. So if you click this will show you your most recent projects. So you can kind of click around between your projects if you're on multiples, especially the CAPMs. This would be handy for you. So you can click up here, but whatever project is in the blue up here, that's the level that you're sitting at. That's the project you're working within. And then for PMs, if you go to user management, groups, you can see who's assigned to what. So you can see what staff is assigned to what projects. You're going to go to the CATSO group here, and you can see who's assigned to it. I think that's pretty much it. your task bar up here. So your tasks in your top right. Hopefully you don't have 99 plus tasks like I do. But these are all just from testing mostly. But your task says who it's from, what the subject of it is, what app it's from. You can search by app. So if you click this, you can search, sort by column headers. So you can see all the NCRs, all the submittal items, all the TMSPs, all that good stuff. That's about it. Do we have Eric on the call yet? Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I am going to take over. All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Eric Donahue, and I've been with the Ministry of Transportation about 13 years, and I started as a QAO. So when I switched the CMS team, I sort of ended up as the lead on the MLT side of things. And that's where now you'll likely, if you send any questions in about anything, MLT being material lab testing, if you send any questions into our inbox about that stuff, you'll probably hear back from me about it. And I'm sharing my wrong screen here. Hold on. There we go. All right, so I'm going to give you a bit of an overview on how the sampling and field testing works within the system, how we go about gathering samples, creating records, putting security seals on them, and carrying through to reviewing our samples for acceptance within the contract. First, we'll touch on data management. One thing that's important for everyone to note, some of the people who've been around a little longer will remember the days of the paper PHCC forms. Generally, paper PHCC forms are not required any longer. The digital version within CMS is considered to be the equivalent of the PHCC. There is some exceptions for MLT around the lab testing, or sorry, the field testing, in that we haven't built that yet. So we do still have to work off of a paper form and upload that through our submittals. But otherwise, any of the material testing, sampling, that sort of thing is just done within the system strictly. The one caveat is that SDS forms are still required to be included with samples for transportation. That's a transportation of dangerous goods requirement that if we have any chemicals or anything that are being transported and require an SDS, then those must be included with the sample for transportation. And so that will still be a paper copy. QA Lab will upload all their test results within CMS, so you're not getting emails with test results. Everything is coming through the system, and you'll have a notification into your inbox when the test results are available for your review. And so here, this is the field testing aspect. So that's the one aspect where we are still requiring to use a PHCC form, and you can use the submittals app to set it up, and you can set up different packages in there depending on how you want to run it. We recommend, a compaction folder. If you have some granulars, I would make a submittals package for compaction and have all of your compaction records uploaded through one submittal package that way, and keep things grouped together so they're easier to find. And nonconformance reports are also submitted within CMS. We haven't been able to develop the challenge portion of the newer nonconformance process. And so that will still have to be handled separately, but the app generally still handles a nonconformance as we go through, and you should be able to be handled for most of the issues you're going to have. It's only if there happens to be a challenge that comes up that you'll need to break out of the system for that. ERS. So ERS, you'll use your spreadsheets and calculate any pay factors that are required, and then you issue those. Same as always, just attach them to an INC and use CMS to distribute that to the contractor. So this is one thing that is probably one of the most complex apps that we've built, and I think Kahua still touts this to be the most complex app that they've built to date. Just the the workflow that we have and the amount of back and forth, and it requires a lot of integral processes to be able to provide flexibility for the system and multiple users and some regional preferences as well. And so you can see there's a lot of back and forth that can happen and different things that can happen with these samples as they progress through the system. So when we're collecting a sample, we start with initiating the record within the system. And so one thing that was a regional preference that we ended up building right in was that ultimately anybody on the contract can initiate a lab sample record. So whether it's the contractor or the inspector, the CA, technically a CSA would be able to do it. Anybody with permission on your contract would be able to start a lab sample record. And that's, again, it's just regional preferences. Some regions prefer it to be handled strictly by the inspectors, and others prefer it to be the contractors that are initiating those sample records. And you have that flexibility as required. And so from that initiation step, oh, I missed the box. We'll go through to this through to the CA review step. And so if it is initiated by an inspector or a contractor in the field, we make sure that it comes through the CA, and the CA does a final review of the record prior to submitting to the lab. The CA being the assigning authority, they're the ones that need to actually make sure that the right test code selected, the right security seals are on there, the right lots and sublots, all of that should be verified by the signing authority, which is the CA, prior to sending them through to the lab for sample examination. So once they're received in the labs have a stage where they review the samples and they can send it back. CAs have a recall button available in this step as well. So if you realize that you've missed something and you click submit, you can call it back, provided it hasn't moved past this lab sample examination step. So you do have a bit of time if you realize you've made a mistake and you want to work on it. If not, you can always reach out to the lab and have them use the more information button to send it back to you. And so from there, the labs are going to review the samples and see if determine if they're testable or not. And so maybe there's a non-conformance with it, say there's a damaged bag, or maybe it's an underweight sample or something like that. We may have to move through our lab sample non-conformance process. And with that lab sample non-conformance process, basically it comes through, the CA reviews the sample and provides any comments. It comes to the QAO for review and any comment that they have. And then ultimately the CA makes the decision in terms of what we're going to be doing with that sample. Are we going to be closing without testing? Are we going to recommend testing the sample as is? Are we going to resample? How are we going to approach that sample and make sure that we can move ahead with testing? But we're going to focus mostly on our happy path, as we call it. So it's basically everything going as expected with no issues encountered. And so assuming that there isn't any non-conformances with the sample, we move ahead through, and the lab would initiate their testing and perform their testing on their end, get the samples, all the sample data together, and send it out for review. One thing that we did as well, we've built in so that the CA and the contractor receive the test results at the same time. So that's very similar to how it used to be with the emails. Everybody would get an email with the test results attached to them at the same time. And the reason that we did this was to avoid difficult contractors. Perhaps they're not reviewing their test results in a timely manner. This allows the CA to be able to review them as they come through. One thing that came up yesterday was that if the CA reviews them too quickly, apparently it removes the task from the contractor. And particularly if you close the record, the CA the contractor doesn't have an opportunity to state whether or not the sample meets the requirements. And it is ultimately up to them to state, do they meet, do they not meet? Are they going to go to referee? Are they going to initiate a non-conformance? What are they going to do with that record? So we do need to make sure that we're giving the contractor an opportunity to review. Generally, it's considered to be about 72 hours, but that can be what you work out between you and your contractor, and making sure that they have an opportunity that's fair and reasonable to them. Now, you will see on here we have a referee section built into the workflow. This is still future development. We haven't been able to build that yet. So the process for that is that we are moving outside of the system and doing the referee assignment that way, sending the required test data to the lab, and they'll send back the test results to you. And you click the more information, you attach it to the record, click the more information button to send it back to the contractor, and then they can state whether or not the sample meets the contract requirements from there. There's a few options for closing out a sample. We can send it just to a typical close, so maybe it's a single sample, and it can be tested and it's acceptable, and we can just close the sample outright. Maybe there's an issue with the sample, so we can create an NCR directly from the lab record. If the contractor identifies an issue, they can identify that, and it'll automatically create the NCR for them. And then the other option that we have that's not shown on here would be close pending ERS. And so that's a way to get them out of your task list while you're waiting for all the sublots to come in to be able to generate your ERS. And then you'll have an ERS complete button to be able, once your ERS is done, to send them back and have the contractor indicate the acceptance of the materials. So here, this is where I was saying the referee is not built yet, but it is something that we hope to have in the future. EMO samples, we don't send them directly to EMO yet, and they're just operating as a traditional lab. It doesn't really change anything from a CA's perspective. You still just select them within the dropdown. If a sample needs to go to EMO, they would appear in there as a regular lab, and everything works the same from your perspective as a CA. I'm just going to take a moment. I do see some questions popping in the chat here. I'm going to go back. Ryan, I don't know, I think you're answering a few. Is there anything that you haven't been able to get to?
No, I think they're all answered pretty straightforward.
We're all okay? Yep. Yeah. Okay. All right. So on sample initiation, we're going to log in. And again, this can be the contractor, the inspector, or the CA that can initiate a sample. So we're going to go in and we're going to click in the apps and we're going to come and look. Now, we have about half of the test codes built with custom applications. And so you'll find them underneath their appropriate section. They're grouped by aggregates, bituminous, and not shown here is concrete. And so that's the first place you should be looking for a test code. And if you can't find it, we have the Material Test MisX app, which is a miscellaneous app. It is custom built, but it's extremely generic and just requires uploading of PDFs rather than having custom data entry fields. And this is something that we're using in the interim until we can build the remaining test codes within the system. And if you're looking for a test code in particular, you can always use the search box up at the top rather than having to scroll through the lists. Maybe you're having some trouble finding it, just type in there and it should pop up for you. So when you're initiating a sample, this is some of the information that's required in there. So any of the fields marked with an asterisk. So this one thing you will notice is that in the more contract management side of the system, generally mandatory fields are marked with in red, I believe it is. But within the material lab testing, they're marked with an asterisk. So you'll see at the top, sampled by has an asterisk on it. That would be a mandatory field that needs to be filled in. I see a couple of people asking about zooming in. Does this zoom in on your end as well if I do that?
That's a little better. It might cut off
a little
some
better.
of the edges.
That's okay. Yeah. I'll scroll around as needed. And so you can see with the sampled by, it has an asterisk by, witnessed by. So these are all fields that we need to fill in. There are some optional fields, waybill, supplier, hauling agency, if we want to add some additional information to the record to have it go through, but only the ones with the asterisks are required. Oh. And then, so I think I can't advance without zooming back out. So then here we'll have, this is where we're selecting our test code. So the test code's been selected when we create it, but then we need to enter our material type, our sample type, and you'll see here, this is an AQA2 being a bituminous test. So we would attach the JMF. So any job mix formula, if it was a concrete type, we would attach the concrete mix design to it. And that way the lab knows exactly which lab or which mix design they need to use when they're testing the sample. And there's no question about the acceptance requirements there. Again, there's quite a bit of information that we do require to be entered. This is very similar to our old sample data sheets. Lane directions, stations, offsets, date of paving, all that. Sometimes date of paving, like you may see that there's multiple dates, date of paving versus date sampled. So it may seem a little bit redundant depending on when your sampling is happening. if it's happening real time or if it's happening after the fact with things like coring. So just make sure that you do enter all those dates as you go through. Lots and sublots, those are alphanumeric fields. You can name them whatever you want. You can use numbers, you can use letters. If you have early breaks or if you want to label something as information or anything like that, you can customize those as required. And then the security seals. So here you'll see in blue, it says add security seals. And so that's where you're going to click on that and it'll populate a list of the security seals that are on your contract for you. Select the seals that are required and they'll be populated into the contract. And once they're used here, then they don't show up in your list anymore. So you don't have to worry about double using them. But if you do use them incorrectly, on a sample, there can be some difficulty in removing them. They're locked to the sample once it moves through the lab. The only way to remove them is to have the record shifted back to the CA review step and have the CA physically delete those seals if they've made a mistake and put them on the wrong record. So do be careful in doing that. And then there's always a comment section within every record. So if there's any information that you want to add with your samples, you can go ahead and type in the comments and have that carry through. Just be aware that those comments are all publicly visible. So the contractor and anybody with access to the record will be able to see it. Then you're going to click Save and Close once you've entered all that data and carry on. This is an example of what the labs will be entering for their data. And so one thing that's nice now is if you're working across regions or in different areas, that all test reports are test reports are standardized. So because it's a single test code in here, rather than labs having their own unique forms that they're using, at least now when you're going to look for your test results, they're all in the same place and available for you to find and understand as you're assessing the quality of the material. So from there, we move on. The lab will get all their test data in. It's reviewed by the lab manager, and then the lab manager sends out the test results. Again, they go to the contractor and the CA at the same time. And that's for review purposes. Give the contractor a little bit of time to review them. But you'll see the test results will be up here. This is the MISX app. So there's a text box, and usually there'll be a PDF attached to it down in the reference section. That's where the test results will be for you to review if you're using MISX. If not, the test data will be within the record itself. So here's where the contractor will be doing their review as they're going through, but you're focusing on the CA review section. So if there's nothing filled out in the contractor review section, you can see that they haven't done it yet. And you may want to reach out to them if it's been more than a few days and they haven't reviewed it. If not, you can go ahead and review it yourself. So when you're reviewing, you and the contractor have the same options for reviewing them. So the samples either meet, yes, they do not meet, no, or you're waiting on ERS. So if we're using a sublot system, we don't know until if the material actually meets or not until it's been calculated. So pending ERS, that's our temporary closed state. If you have any issues with the sample information, if say there's something wrong or maybe the lab forgot an attachment or anything, you have the incomplete results button that sends it back to the lab. I do recommend using the comments section. That saves you from having to send an email. If you throw something into the comments and hit incomplete results, it will go back to the lab and then they'll know that what they need to correct on that for you. So the easiest, do the samples, test results meet the test requirements? Yes, they do. And so from there, you're presented with a close button. You're presented with a close button that you can click on, and then you can move the record out of your tasks, and it's put away from there. Pending ERS is another one that's pretty straightforward, just like pending ERS, and you get a pending ERS button available to you. You'll see some of the buttons are grayed out. So generally, we're only presenting you with the options that are appropriate for what you've clicked on. So we can't close or close with NCR right now because we're saying that we're waiting on ERS. So once we've closed the record that was pending on ERS, you'll see that we're shifted through, and here's your ERS complete button that you can use to pull it back out of that, and then that'll send it back to the contractor for their review. they'll have their INC with their ERS sheet attached to it, and then they can come in and review the sublots that are associated, their 10 sublots or whatever it is that they're required to review. They can come in and state yes or no, whether or not they meet. They can invoke referee if they want, and carry through from there. So here, this is where test results don't meet. So the contractor, they differ a little bit here, where they do, when they select no, they do not meet the contract requirements. They're presented with an option to select invoke referee. That'll send the record through to you as the CA. You won't be able to action the record from there. That's where I was saying that you would just you would attach the test results to it and hit the more information button and send that back to the contractor. But your options available are, create a nonconformance or attach to an existing nonconformance report. So if you select attach to an existing nonconformance report, you'll be presented with a list of nonconformances that are existing, and you can select one there. So maybe you have an ongoing issue that you're tracking test results against. So you can attach to that, or you can choose to create a new one. And so this here, you'd be populated, because I haven't selected a nonconformance to attach it to yet, it's still grayed out, but you would be given the option to close with NCR from there. And so here's an example of where the contractor has selected invoke referee testing. So you can see the only option that you're given is to deny the referee request. And so that would send it back to the contractor, and they have to select a different option from there. But the recommend referee remains grayed out because we haven't built it yet. So you would complete your referee. So you can see I've populated a comment, referee is now complete. And then I would attach the test results to the record and click the more information button. That sends it back to the contractor, and then the contractor will be given the option again to select yes, no, or pending ERS with their test results as they go through. And that's everything I had for you on material lab testing today. I'm going to take a moment and go back and see if there's any questions that haven't been covered. I see quite a few comments about Zoom, so I'll take that back for my next presentation when we do this and try and make some of the slides a little bit closer. I apologize for those of you that are working on smaller screens. Once ERS is completed, we have to go back and close each sublot again. Is it possible to close a lot at once when ERS is completed? So currently, no, we have to close each sublot individually. We are looking to build a suite for ERS within CMS, and once that's built, we're hoping to be able to close multiple sublots simultaneously. However, for now, we do still have to close each sublot individually. It really only takes a minute to go through. There's 10, maybe 10 sublots that you need to click on and select yes or no whether or not they meet, and carry on through there. Is there a training module in CMS that individuals can play around with these functions without being in a live contract? So no, unfortunately, for external users, we don't have anything that you can play around in the system, only the contracts that you're assigned to. But if you have any questions, there are all the user guides that Ryan's pointed you to, and you can always reach out to us at MTO CMS if you have any questions and you're not sure about what a button is going to do. Can participants get a summary of the chat questions and answers after the training? Ryan, I'm not sure about that functionality. Do we have a way to get the chat out for folks at the end?
Let me look into that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I might be able to copy and paste it or something like that.
Okay. Is there any help section in CMS that can get help with some guidance? I'm not sure that I understand the question there. If you want to take another stab at that.
Maybe I'll show the technical publications has CMS guides. I'll show that at the end.
Okay. As per SP, there's a timeline for the contractor review. Can CMS clock this time? No, we don't have an availability for that. We do timestamp the record as it carries through. So if the contractor comes in and actions the records, we have access to the history to view when that happened, and we can review the timestamps and see how long anything took for them to do. But no, we don't have a way for it to, say sit with the contractor for 72 hours and then come to the CA for review. Unfortunately, that's not a functionality that's available. Looks like we have a road report 2.0 question. Ryan, I believe you have a section on road report or no?
Yeah, we'll cover road report later, Aaron.
Okay. So we'll leave that. Maybe we'll leave that question, Aaron. Save that question for later if it doesn't get covered. Please enter it in the chat again later. PHCC forms are still required for specific EMO products. So they shouldn't be requiring, we shouldn't be needing too many PHCC forms. We should be able to get everything uploaded within the system. That would just be within the MISX applications, which I guess technically still do cover the EMO ones, are all generally within MISX. And so we should be filling out the form and attaching it because we don't have all the complete sample data. An error message pops up for the lab when submitting testing records. There was an error opening the document in Kahua. The link appears to be invalid, or you no longer have access to this document. What is the reason for this error message? I'm going to have to ask you to send in some screenshots and email us. That sounds like something that we can take a look off separately. That's not a known issue on my end. But when you do receive that pop-up, please take a screenshot and send in an email to the MTO CMS at ontario.ca, and we will take a look at that more closely for you. Mechanical connector labs are not in the system. How do we get those test results? And so those test results should be being uploaded back into the system by the folks at EMO. So when you're submitting those tests through the MISX app, the EMO folks are catching up. They were quite far behind on some of the test results with some of the transition that happened. But my understanding was this winter they spent a bunch of time catching up and getting a lot of test results in. And I believe test results are coming out a little bit more timely now. If you are missing any test results, you can always reach out to your QAO and they can track them down through EMO for you. Not sure if it was already mentioned, contractor and CA team can initiate samples. Is being handled differently on projects. What is the prescribed method? We initiate or the contractor? And so that's actually something that is a regional preference. So who initiates a sample? That seems to be a regional preference. There are different interpretations on the sampling spec as to who is required, whether it's the CA as a signing authority because it's our sample and we should be the one entering all the data, or is it the contractor and it's their responsibility to make sure that the right data is in, and then that way if there's a mistake, it's the contractor's mistake with their sample rather than our mistake. And so that's a gray area and not something that CMS team can answer for you. I would recommend taking that up with your QAO in any of your pre-start meetings and determining what you want to use on your project. So do we select the EMO lab for mechanical connectors? Yes. So when you're in and you go in the MISX app, and I don't know, it would be one of the EMO test codes. I don't know offhand which one it is, but you select the EMO test code for mechanical connectors, and then select the lab as being the EMO lab, and then that'll send it through to them to get the test results uploaded and attached to them. Okay, good questions, everybody.
Sweet, thanks, Eric. So we're going to get into change management here. We're going to kind of start from the ground and work our way up through it. I'll go quickly through this first little bit because I think we all know it and it's really straightforward. But talking about equipment, labor, material lists, these drive our daily work records. So as most of you probably know, a daily work record is going to link equipment, pieces of equipment and laborers into it that are established in the equipment and labor lists. So it's important to maintain and groom the equipment and labor lists to keep them up to date so when a daily work record need appears or a time and material change order or a compensation request happens, we're poised and ready to take daily work records and everything's set up. The thing with CMS is it strives to automate processes, but to automate things, you need to do a lot of setup at the beginning. Like these contracts take a lot of data manipulation to set them up in the first place, but then they're automated throughout. And same with the daily work record and the time material process. You set up a bunch of stuff, a bunch of equipment and labor at the beginning, and then it's a lot smoother to take your daily work records throughout it. So you go to your apps, all apps, equipment list, or you can just keyword search in the top there for equipment list. You can either add a one-off, so you can click new up here and then fill out your pieces of equipment there with some required fields, or you can do an import export. You save and close, activate it there. Or you can do an import export where the contractor or yourself, so either CAs or contractors, can create pieces of equipment or import export lists. You can export a blank template and fill it out, or you can export an existing equipment list to your hard drive and then fill that out in Excel and re-import it. So it's a lot quicker if you're doing multiple pieces of equipment to do it this way through an import export. The exported Word document comes with an instructions tab at the bottom here, and then you flip over to equipment and you fill that out. I go over this in much more detail with the contractors because really it's their list to maintain, but it's good to know for CAs as well. So you're gonna delete that, the first three columns, and then D through H, you're gonna keep that, don't change it. And then I through T, these are the columns where you fill out the information for your individual piece of equipment. So your asset number, your description, the make, model, year, fuel type, rented or owned. This is a main required field, so make sure you fill that out properly. You fill out that section, and then at the bottom here, see you add a new number or a new piece of equipment, and then re-import that back in. Save the Excel to your hard drive and then re-import it back into the system. So you click import, you choose it from your hard drive, click open, and then click OK. This is going to bring it in. You can see here now there's 5 pieces of equipment saved instead of the 4 that was there before. And you can see our draft piece of equipment at the top, CAT 415, that we just created through that import. Labor list is the same. You search laborers, find your labor list, or you keyword search labor. Process is the same. You can import, export laborers. Make sure that their rates are appropriate, as just like the equipment list. The equipment list should be using the 127 rates, but the rates obviously are going to come from the contractor here for laborers. So make sure those are in there because the system is going to need those to multiply by the hours that are given in the daily work record to determine the cost of the daily work record. Material list is for the submission and recording of designated source of materials on the project. So the materials list, oh, my screenshot's missing. There it is. Materials list there is for the DSM entries. It has a link here. So you fill out your DSM list number, color for some reason, unit of measure, quantity, rate, and then the DSM, you can record a link to the actual item that you're submitting. And we'll do a quick demo just because we need a piece of equipment and a labor for the daily work record demo. So we'll go equipment really quick here. Got 3 pieces of equipment here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the asset number. That's a required one. Make is training for CAs. Whether it's rented or owned, this is important for the TMSP. And then the 127 rates are important as well. You can put the reference to the 127 rates, so 01, and then capacity, any notes, and maybe upload a picture of it if you want to. Activate that piece of equipment. Now you can see the status is active, and I'll be able to pull that up in a daily work record. We'll do the same. Well, we already have a labor list in there. The laborers are the same process. So any questions on that? Is contractor populating equipment and labor list? They should be, yeah, but it's possible for both the CA and the contractor to populate the list. There's no contractual requirement for the contractor to give us a labor and equipment list. This is only to facilitate time and material work and DWRs. So when it comes time for a DWR, they're going to have to submit those pieces of equipment that are at least pertinent to the DWR. So it's easier for them, if they have it available, to just submit their whole equipment complement and then everything's there ready to go, or you just create it on the go. But if your inspector's out there and they're trying to take notes and they find, oh, there's this new piece of equipment or a subcontractor brought in a curb machine today that's not on the list, they can easily throw it in there themselves, and then that doesn't sacrifice their ability to take notes. How do we navigate this when the contractors are not completing all the cells for the equipment? Well, like I said, there's no requirement for them to submit the equipment list, but there is for them to take daily work records. So they need to at least submit the pieces of equipment and laborers that are being used in time and material change orders and daily work records. And yes, you need the list for diaries. So that's why you can create your own pieces of equipment in there too, for the purpose of taking your diaries. Okay, moving on to daily work records. So CA's inspectors no longer take DWRs in the system. They simply review the contractor's daily work records. We tried to mimic the process in the field where they would submit a carbon copy at the end of the day to the inspector. The inspector would mark it up and say, no, it's not 7, it's 6. Oh, you missed a piece of equipment here. This, that, and the other. And then it goes to the CA for the final numbers to review the time material summary for payment. So for CAs, as per the change order manual, a separate diary should be kept recording the time material work. So diaries can now be linked to either items, change orders, or compensation requests. So if an inspector is inspecting DWR work, they should be choosing either the change order or compensation request for that diary and linking it to it. And then there's an other category in there as well. So you can go other category and title it daily work record. Users who are inspecting, oh, that's what I just said. Contractor users will input a title and try and encourage contractors to title it accordingly to the work. We get complaints, especially from like third-party insurance recoverers and stuff, that they just title it DWR 0003 and it's not very useful. Title it, like accident at guide rail attenuator or additional grading at, 12 plus whatever. Just so it's easier to pull up and distinguish from other DWRs. And separate companies should be kept on separate DWRs. So there's prime and sub delineator on the DWR. This also plays into the calculation in the TMSP. So make sure that you take separate daily work records for your prime and your subs, and you can take as many TMSPs as you want as well. So you can create one TMSP for a prime, one for a sub, one for a different sub, and then link them all to the same change order. DWRs are aggregated for reconciliation based on the links to either a change order or a compensation request. So I told this to the contractors yesterday. We trained the contractors yesterday. There's, I think, about 150 or 180 of them. I can't remember. So there's a lot of complaints that they can't take daily work records without a compensation request. But the way the GCs are written, a daily work record can't exist with a compensation request or a change order in existence. So if something occurs, something pops up, and the contractor does not know the full scope of compensation, they get nervous to put a compensation request in. But it's set up so that they can put one in, you can send it back for more information, and then they can link a CR or a daily work record to a CR in more information status. It's in their control. They can edit it. They can update it with new compensation fields as they realize it, and then resubmit it to you at a later time. So if something like that happens and your contractor is nervous to submit a CR, have them submit it, immediately send it back for more information to them, and then they can link it in a DWR, take DWRs against it, it's in their control, and then when they're comfortable and complete, they can update it with the final compensation amount and submit it that way. Contractor's labor, equipment, and material lists will appear here in the daily work records, so that's why it's important to have them updated at least with the equipment and laborers that are pertinent to the T&M work. Please note the material list in DWRs is no longer connected with the DSM. It was in WBCMS, but it wasn't appropriate. So now the materials list is simply just for materials related to the T&M work. A box of nails, epoxy, some lumber, whatever it is. So this is what a daily work record looks like. The contractor clicks link labors, link equipment or material. Here they fill it in. The name is a required field because the definition of a daily work record in the general conditions requires a name and then whether they're union or non-union. And at the top, or sorry, yeah, at the top of the daily work record is going to dispose whether they are a prime or a sub. Here you can add notes as well. So night work premiums may apply, whatever that means. The contractor can add notes to contextualize the daily work record. You can see the materials list there. They can just add whatever. They should be attaching invoices or receipts to support the material. And a couple contractors yesterday asked, well, what if we don't have the receipt when we're doing the daily work record? It's taking a while for us to get invoices from suppliers. To which I said, you can either do a different, like leave it off the daily work record and do it later once you actually receive it and just do a materials only DWR, or you can add it in at the TMSP stage. So if you miss materials in the daily work records, you can still add material at the TMSP stage, just attach your invoice there to support it. So once you submit it, it goes to the inspector. The contractor actually has a drop down to choose which inspector it goes to. So whoever's inspecting their T&M work that day, they can choose, okay, it's Ryan is inspecting my grading operation today. I'm going to send it to Ryan. The inspector reviews it and then can add their own numbers and edit their own numbers. So there's a column for the contractor's numbers, the inspectors, and the CA's numbers. The CA's numbers are going to be the final numbers that get pulled into the TMSP. The inspector can also add items that were missed. So if the contractor forgot a dump truck or something like that, they can add it in for them. A finished DWR will show the contractors, inspectors, and CA's numbers. So there's the contractor's numbers, the inspector's numbers and comments, and then the CA's final numbers. And then same for equipment. And the material, there's just comments they can add. They can't really change the price of it. It's just the price supported by the invoices and receipts. Please note the inspector is still required to receive and retain the hard copy material weight tickets associated to time material work. However, they are paid under the CO, not an item. This means they're inputted and uploaded to either the DWR or the TMSP, but not the material weight ticket suite. So we'll create a quick daily work record here. Go up here and search daily. Start a new one, and I'll use my new piece of equipment. Let's go CR. I know, let's go change order. I think I've got one. T&M tests, so T&M test, change order 15. I'll link it to there. Let's pull up our new piece of equipment. Since we activated it, it should be here. Here it is, training for CAs. Then I add 0 downtime, 0 standby time, 8 hours. I'm going to title this Stitching Along Right Shoulder, Southbound Lanes. Type of contractor, we'll say it's a prime contractor. And then the inspector, you've always got to choose the inspector too. Materials here, I'll say I had to buy golden shovel. Just one of them. It was new and it was $1,000. Here's my notes log too. I can add any notes I like here. You have to timestamp them, so that's handy. Oh, and labors. Link my labor. There's a laborer and a carpenter, so we'll take a laborer to clean up with the golden shovel. You have to name them. 42 bucks an hour. They're a union and a prime contractor, and they worked 8 hours along with the piece of equipment. Save that and submit it. Oh, units are required for material item. Whoopsie. So this would all be what the contractor is doing, obviously. I don't think you guys get to see this very often, so units each. There, and submit that. So now it's going to go to the inspector for review. The inspector disposes what their hours are for each one. So the inspector saw 8, that's fine. The equipment was 0 downtime, 0 inspection time, 8 hours. And then materials, I can't do anything here. I'll just go, okay, yeah, $1,000. I'll check out the attachments at the bottom, pretend there's an invoice here for $1,000 golden shovel, and review that. Then one more click and it goes to the CA. And once the CA puts in their numbers, and they can put in different numbers too. So we can go, you know, oh, I think this is only 6 hours because I went by at 2 o'clock and you guys were packing up. Link equipment. Well, the CA can also add equipment too. So they can say, actually, it was 0 downtime, 0 standby time, 6 hours operating time. But there was also a cat backhoe actually doing the training or the ditching because a piece of equipment called CA Training can't do ditching. And they did 8 hours. Review that. And that's done. So see, it says ready for summary now. Now the TMSP, the next module we're going to talk about, is going to pull that daily work record in to create a TMSP. And then we can pay a change order that way. No questions about that? All right. So time material summary for payments. So it's been overhauled from WBCMS. You can now progressively pay them. You can separate the prime and sub, and union and non-union. And you can do T&M change orders that recirculate for higher DOFMA. So if the CA, well, the CA, circulate the initiation with your estimate for T&M work, and then all of a sudden you hit that ceiling and you realize, oh, the TMSPs are calculating higher than the DOFMA that I have, it won't let you issue the price agreement with the finished linked TMSPs until you've recirculated the change order for DOFMA. So you can recirculate it higher, get more permission that way. Just have the contractor run a TMSP every once in a while to aggregate all the information and know and learn what financial status your change order is at based on the daily work records. It'll aggregate everything for you and tell you through the TMSP how much you've accrued against that change order. CA inspectors and CAs no longer complete daily work records. We just saw that, so we don't have to do both of them like we did in Jim. Did you have a question? All good? All right. WBCMS, we had both parties creating daily work records to reconcile them against each other, so we don't have to do that anymore, as we saw. Inspectors and CAs can also add daily work record entries to the contractor's daily work records, and DWRs that are linked to a CR, which then result in a CO, will all be pulled in. So if the contractor submits a compensation request and starts linking daily work records to that, and then that compensation request goes up for DOFMA, gets an approved decision amount, becomes a change order. If it gets issued as a T&M change order, you can then link DWRs to that change order, and then the TMSP will pull it all in. Contractor will populate the TMSP by linking it to a change order. So the change order must be completed and issued to the contract. You can create as many TMSPs against it as you want. So do one for the prime, one for the sub, one for union, one for non-union. It'll delineate the equipment based on the rented and owned disposition you provide or the contractor provides in the equipment list. So this is the contractor that would do this. Click link daily work records. They come up there. You can see them titled properly. This is why you want a good title so that you can, the contractor can easily tell which daily work records apply and which don't. This change order 7 has been issued to the contract, is paid by time material basis, and is waiting the contractor's lump sum estimate. It can therefore be selected to link a TMSP to. Contractors will populate the TMSP by linking relevant DWRs through a picker that services all daily work records that were either linked to the change order or linked to the compensation request. So that's what I was talking about before. Once a change order and its related daily work records are selected, all daily work records associated with that CO or its pending CR are pulled in. So it populates pretty quickly. It doesn't really have timeout issues or anything like that. I haven't experienced any timeout issues with them. The materials grid also has an insert button. So recall before I said if you miss or if you don't have an invoice or something like that, but when you're doing your daily work records, you can submit it on your TMSP itself and that will go to the CA still. And if they disagree with the price or it's missing an invoice, they can cancel it and you've got to redo it, or the contractor has to redo it. When the TMSP is submitted, it comes to the CA for review. The CA can cancel it if it's incorrect or otherwise review it to complete its workflow. That's what it looks like for the CA. You can see all the payroll burden and everything is in here. You can see the laborers are there. The contractor can edit the payroll burden, the room and board, travel expenses, all that good stuff in the TMSP and fill it out. It looks a lot like the old PHCC form. So we'll go through one quickly and pull in the daily work record 24 that we just did for change order 15. So I just search time and it comes up. Create a new one here. CA Training, July 7th. It was a prime contractor we were dealing with. Change order, oh, change order 15's not here. It must not be a T&M one. Okay, let's see if anything's associated to CO35. Link daily work records. There they are. So here's my ditching along right shoulder, southbound lanes. Distribution list, I should have covered this in the general functionality, is like a carbon copy on an email. So it sends an FYI to anyone in the system who you want to keep informed of the workflow changes of the app itself. Or not the app itself, the record itself. So I've got my daily work record there. I just click save and it's going to pull all the information in for it. Here's my labor, 42 bucks an hour for 8 hours or 6 hours, sorry, because that's what the CA had. Then you see here, this is the contractor doing all this. So you can edit room and board here. Union payroll burden, we can put in 40% there. Add room and board. Here's our equipment. All the way across. You can see 8 and 6 hours there. And then a total at the bottom for equipment. Materials, here's my golden shovel. It's all right there. So save that and submit it to the CA. And then you, the CA, would just check it out, make sure everything's good. Okay, click review. That's it. Now, if you had an open time material change order, you would go to the change order. It would have the contractor's estimate submitted to you, and you would click link TMSPs. It would pull in all the TMSPs linked to that change order, overwrite whatever your lump sum estimate was, and then you can finalize the change order or leave it there and continue daily work records and continue creating time material summary for payments. Okay, a few questions. So all the entries can be done by inspectors or OP? Yes. OP cannot even see the diaries. So there's a request from ASEC to hide diaries from each other because inspectors were going in and editing each other's diaries. So that's if you're in the inspector group, you're not going to be able to see other diaries. If you're an office person, take yourself or have yourself taken out of the inspector group and put into the CA group, and then you can see all the diaries. Can CMS make the contractor submit an IR before a CR can be submitted? The CMS can't make contractor do anything. But it's not a requirement to submit an information request before a compensation request can be submitted. They're two different things, and they rely on the CA to recognize what's the term, veiled compensation, either overt or not. So we really rely on the CAs to distinguish the difference between the need for an information request or a compensation request. Does the contractor or CA get to select which inspector to review each of the daily work records? Yes, it's a drop down that they choose, theoretically, whoever's actually inspecting their work that day. Can I please demonstrate how to pull the TMSP to overwrite the CO estimate? If I have time at the end, I will. It all depends on how many questions are asked, but it takes about 10 minutes to do. So let me make a note to do a T&M at the end, T&M demo. Once a T&M summary is closed and the TMSP total appears in the change order, should the lump sum amount be entered manually, or is there a way for CMS to auto-populate it from the TMSP total? It does auto-populate from the TMSP total after you link TMSPs. So you issue the change order to the contractor submits their estimate back to you, and then it sits there and waits while you take daily work records against it. Once the TMSP is created, it aggregates those daily work records into a TMSP total, links itself to the change order, and then you click get or link TMSPs, and it pulls all the linked TMSPs in and creates a total, and it'll ask you, it'll pop up will appear and say, do you want to overwrite this will overwrite the lump sum amount or whatever that you have in there. How can we make interim payment for work completed per the GCs with this system? Do we just issue an OPA and then a negative OPA when the final cost of the CO has been determined? The OPA is not the greatest thing, but it is difficult to make interim payments without closing the hang on, I have to admit somebody, without closing the change order. If we agreed upon doing work on T&M basis, should CA issue the change order or should wait for the DWRs and then issue the change order? No, if you agree and you recognize a change to the scope of work and you agree that it's a change to the scope of work, you should issue a time material change order and then start taking DWRs against that time material change order. Okay, good questions. Okay, change orders. So change orders are part of the change management suite, which encompasses change orders, proposals, compensation requests, other payment adjustments. They're all considered change management. The suite itself doesn't have compensation requests. That's more of a dispute resolution, but it also drives scope change. Change order process in CMS now mirrors the business. So we have change initiation, which is like the old CAS, contract administration system that we use to manage change orders and OPAs. The change initiation builds the change order, the scope of work, the basis of payments, it garners DOFMA, supporting documentations, the estimates, the PQP adjustments, all that good stuff. And then out of it comes a change order, and the change order goes to the contractor. Contractor submits their estimate back, and then the price agreement's issued, the price agreement is accepted, and then the transaction is created. Subcodes are now adjustable and new subcodes can be created as well. So that was an improvement that we had, took many years to achieve, but we can do that in CMS now. You'll notice that change management section has tabs along the top. So this is all kind of in a drop down now, but there's change management, initiation, change order, other payment adjustment, transactions. You kind of move yourself along there from left to right when you're going through change management process. The contractor cannot see initiation at all. Estimates, internal communication, and attachments are not visible to the contractor. So you click new under the change management tab, and then create a title, and then create initiation. There have been improvements to the categories list, so we've bolstered them greatly. There's now first, second, and third subcategory categories. So we went a little crazy with it, but we're trying to better categorize our changes to understand trends in why we're changing things so much. So we have a report that we run that pulls all change order categories, and then we can go, okay, well, there's a lot of subsurface condition change orders. Maybe we can address this better in design, stuff like that. So note the extension of time option. This is only to adjust time as a result of a claim award. It's not required for when you do a typical extension of time through a CR. The decision being accepted on the CR is what's going to change the time in the system. That's why when you do an extension of time through the change order, it has a mandatory drop down to link a claim, because we needed a mechanism to extend time that was awarded through a claim without having to say, okay, you have to submit another compensation request just so we can say yes to it, so the CR can mechanically change the date in the system. So we devised this. We work with the heads of construction, because they're the people who approve time, and they said this would be a good way to do it. So you click extension of time, you click the claim that it's related to, that is awarding the time. You link that, and then the change order itself is going to go up to the head of construction to be approved to change the time on the contract, and then it'll change that way. But that's the only time you should be using the change order to change the time. So you got the details section. This is the bulk of the grid, the change order type, whether it's changing the work, additional or $0, description of work. It'll tumble down for hundreds of lines, so you don't have to worry about being restricted there. Portable form is configured to look like the actual PHCC 851, and when it's complete, you just click submit. This statement to the contractor, so this used to be, and I went over this with the contractors yesterday too, this used to be that the PHCC language, the contractor may apply for an extension of contract time in accordance with the terms of MTO general conditions of contract, use form, blah, blah, blah. And then the CA would scratch it out if it didn't apply. Not to say the CA can deny the contractor submitting an extension of time request, but it is to say to the contractor, we can't afford to give you extra time to complete the scope of this change, so you need to accelerate to complete it within the current time restraints of the project. So you have a milestone coming up or a big staging shift that you have to make before the winter time. That's where this came in. And then WBCMS's language kind of convoluted it a little bit to say, excuse me, are critical path impacts from this change order known at this time? Yes, no. And so we worked with the claims section to rewrite it to say this. The contractor shall perform the work of this change order within contract time by an adjustment to or additional resources and hours of work as required. So that's letting them know you need to accelerate this. You need to build in premiums for weekend work, for night work, whatever it is, for additional resources, because we can't afford to give you this extra time. So you click that, and that will appear on the change order to the contractor. As bases of payment are selected, their respective grids appear below. So you can see here I've chosen PQP and a lump sum, and the PQP shows up and the lump sum shows up. PQP, you've got to choose, where is it? There it is, the item, the subcode, and the adjusted quantity. You input either positive or negative if there's any quantity left remaining. You can't do a negative adjustment if it's run out already in the current quantity column if it's 0. And then for lump sum, you just input a description and the total amount of the lump sum. Please note the available commands. So you can, once the initiation is done, is garnered DOFMA. You've got create change order, close initiation, or initiate DOFMA. The categories are required. COs within the next CA's DOA still require DOFMA, as the system is also populating a digital change order approval cost estimate form or a COASE. So even if the change order is under 25,000, you still have to go in and approve it, like click approve and put your PIN in as a CA just to approve that. It's like signing your own change order or signing your own COASE. So once everything's done, you click create change order. The next window, you can issue change order, and once you click that, the change order is officially issued to the system. We can no longer delete it for you. We can no longer edit it in the back end for you or anything, because it's been issued to the contract as per the change order manual. Only another change order can cancel or revise an existing change order. So there's the comments, there's the tender item quantity adjustments and the lump sum. This is what goes to the contractor. You'll notice it wipes itself. So the lump sum amount resets to 0 because otherwise we would be sending the contractor our estimate. We populate that as our estimate and then circulate it for DOFMA. After that, it becomes a change order, resets to 0, stores the estimate in the initiation and sends it to the contractor to garner their estimate. Request revision is the contractor's mechanism to request a correction or an error or maybe a negotiation piece. I think they can only do it 3 times before the button doesn't work anymore. So they can't just send it back and forth and back and forth. They have to submit a compensation request if they're disagreeing with the price. You're going to get notifications if you're working in the system in the bottom right-hand corner, and then you're also going to get workflow notifications, emails sent to your email. When the CO is submitted back by to the CA by the contractor, the CA has 2 options: either issue the price agreement if they agree with the contractor's price, or they click revise and they get a bunch more options like editing the CI, initiating DOFMA, or if it's higher. You can see here we had $4,500 estimate, but now it's saying that DOA status is required because the contractor's value came in at $7,968.40. So that's higher than what we have approved. So you won't be able to issue the price agreement without clicking revise and either changing the estimate back down to your 4,500 that you have approval for, or initiating more DOFMA and getting a higher approval. You can see that the CO is telling you the estimate. Yeah, this is what I just went over here. If you hit revise, you get a lot more options that appear. So the contractor has 3 options when the price agreement is sent to them. They can either request a revision again, accept, will sign this price agreement and close the change order for them. That's their last step. Or accept undisputed amount will do the same as accept, but it indicates that the contractor that they can receive the undisputed amount and should submit a CR to Endeavor after the rest. It's kind of meant to be a prompt to them. If they disagree with the price, they can accept undisputed amount, put that on record for the change order to say, okay, I'm accepting the undisputed amount here, but I believe there's more. And then they submit a compensation request for a dispute in the price of a change. So we'll do a system demonstration. I saw a question how to create a new subcode in a change order, so let's do that. And then we'll try and do time and material at the end. So I'll create a new change management here. I'll try and go quickly through this. Title it is basically all the change management does, except it pivots the compensation request and the change proposal integration. So when those items come in, they come into a change management record, and then it poises it and carries over all the DOFMA from the proposal or the request. Here you choose the contractor it's going to go to. So if you have a few different PMs on the job, you can choose specifically who it's going to go to. Change order categories, you've got to link categories in here. Say it's a design issue. And then you have to provide your comment as well, mandatory comment. Let's make this bigger. Our change order type will be changing the work. 99% of the time it will be. Here's our message to the contractor, whether we want it to appear or not. We're just going to introduce a new item. So we'll say that they can still submit for an extension of time. We don't need to accelerate here. This is our scope of work. So make sure you include lots of detail here. And then for a new item, we're going to go basis of payment B. Now there's going to be two grids that open up. The first grid is for adjusting the price of existing items. The second grid is for creating new items. Now it does two things, creates a new item and creates a new subcode. If I want to create a new subcode, I'm going to go item code and choose an existing item from my tender items list. These are all items on my contract already. If I want to create a new item altogether, I'm going to go item spec code. And these are all the items from the CPS master items list. I think there's over 1,600 of them. So these are all the options that you have to add. So let's add, I saw SMA here. Let's add SMA 12.5. Subcode description, new subcode for CA training. Original quantity, say 1,000 tons. What's SMA run these days? It's been a while for me. 25 bucks a ton? Probably not. 25,000, that's right on the button. One penny over for CA, so let's just do that to make it easy. And submit that change order. Now I'll have the initiate DOFMA button. I start that. This should be within my authority, so a single click for approval. I click on it again and I get the approval screen. There's my COACE. There we go. So now you can see it's open and it's all approved now. So DOA status is approved. Now I can create a change order. Save that. You'll notice the values disappear here for the new item. The unit price and the quantity are disappeared because that's got to be the contractor's estimate. We issue the change order. Now it's officially issued to the contractor. I won't go through the back and forth. The contractor is going to submit their estimate back, and then the CA is going to issue the price agreement back, and then create a transaction. But we'll save that, and maybe we can do a time material change order later. Why does the CA have to re-enter item adjustments after DOFMA approval? I don't think you do have to re-enter item adjustments after the DOFMA approval. It doesn't change the DOFMA approval, but when you create the change order, it zeroes the quantities out, but you should leave them blank because they're zeroed out in the change order, but not the initiation, because you don't want to send your estimate to the contractor. Just to clarify, does that mean it is not possible to include or pay progress T&M amounts through a monthly invoice until the associated change order has been fully closed? Yes, that's correct. How subcode item quantity already paid in invoice can be adjusted reversed. If it's already been paid in an invoice, it's already locked in. It's gone and out the door, so it can't be reversed or adjusted. You can only add new quantity on top of it, but once it's paid, you can't reduce it from the contract because it's already been paid. How to create a new subcode, we just covered that. For CR decisions, CRRR recommends negotiating amounts in between $10 and $15. DOFMA approved higher limit 15, but negotiate with contractor at 12. DOFMA approved 15 cannot be changed in decision box, nor can it be returned for new DOFMA to note agreed $12. This is an issue when negotiating without prejudice for final decision sent out. Yes, it is an issue. The only thing I can say is the change order that pays the compensation request can be fixed. So you can include in your quantum or your rationale. Your quantum is going to be auto-populated with the CSA's recommended net and absolute value that was approved on the CR. But in the rationale, you can put, this isn't what's going to be paid. This is what we received negotiating ceiling for. And then the change order that actually pays it can pay the correct $12 from your example. CR is submitted for EOT and winter work costs. Contractors' DWRs are reviewed by inspector and now pending on the CA review and the CA task. Unless the CR principle is accepted, should CA review it or review it at the end of the CR decision? No, you can review the DWRs in isolation of the CR. It's just going to save yourself time and do it when it's fresher in your memory. It's not going to automatically queue them for payment. It's the TMSP that's going to do that. And if you end up not going forward with the change order for the compensation request, then you just don't accept any of the TMSPs and don't create the change order. Can the unit prices for section B be changed to show the unit price automatically? This would minimize possible errors being entered. I can take that back and see. When will method B payment be fixed in CMS? I don't know, Lauren, but I hope it's soon. That's a messy one. For those of you who don't know, there's a basis of payment B bug right now, where if you create new subcodes or items under basis of payment B, it doesn't copy over to the transaction properly. So you can't pay them basically. If it's a PQP adjustment, then is it okay to put the quantity and then issue it to the contractor? I assume you mean like put it in after it resets to 0. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything, but I suppose it's helping the contractor with the quantity adjustment themselves. But yeah, it shouldn't hurt anything in the system. Not all content of PDF copy CRRR can be copied and pasted in CMS CRRR content boxes, such as photo figures tables. Can PDF CRRR still be attached? If you're exporting it out, you will have to export attachments separately from the view. I don't think there's a view with references option. Let me see. Yeah, there isn't. There's only a review of the CRRR, not of the attachments, unfortunately. Does the CA need to wait for the contractor's estimate to request approval of the COI? What's the COI? Sorry, Jesus, I'm not sure what that means. I'll get back to that one after the next, change order initiation, sorry. So does the CA need to wait for the contractor's estimate to request approval of the change initiation? No, the change initiation comes before the contractor's estimate is submitted. The change order can't be issued without the change initiation garnering DOFMA approval first. So the initiation comes first, then the approval, then the issuance of the change order, then the contractor's estimate. If the CO is quantity adjustment, we know the quantity and the price. Why can we not add the quantity and the price in the CO? I'm saying nothing's going to hurt the system if you do, and if it helps the contractor with the adjustment, then you might as well do that. Yeah. But I'm saying it was designed to wipe itself purposely so that you're not disclosing your estimate to the contractor for things like lump sums, time, materials, um, price, what do you call it? Item price negotiations. So yeah. All right, great questions. Oh, okay. Oh, good timing. It's 10:30. Let's take a break and come back at 10:45. Valerie, you have a question? No, all good. Okay, folks, I have here, before we get started, someone was asking if we can show how to link a TMSP to a change order. So I created a time material change order. I issued it to the contract, then I linked a daily work record to it. Then I created a time material summary for payment, linking it to that change order as well. Drew in the DWR that I created, linking it to the change order 59 that I have here. Right up at the top. You can see it's submitted back to me here. I'm going to revise and click on this again. And see here, I've got linked TMSP. So right now, my value is $2,400, but you can see here there's a TMSP for $4,800. So I'm going to link TMSPs. I get this notification that I was talking about before. Please be advised that estimates in the lump sum table will be removed and updated with actual TMSP amounts. I click OK. It updates. Now I can issue the price agreement. So you see here, the lump sum items is now $4,800 based on the time material summary for payment. And I can issue the price agreement to the contractor because that's below the 24,000 DOFMA that I have. You see the value of the change order changes from 24,000 to 4,800, and then we're set. You can, once the contractor accepts that price agreement, you can transact it and then post against it and pay it. All right, let's get back into it. Diaries. So the diaries no longer have to be assigned like they did in WBCMS. Any user who's in the proper permission group, so an inspector, a CA, a CSA, can pull up a diary and create one under whatever category they wish based on a drop-down selection. And diaries no longer time out. So they don't time out at the end of the day or at midnight or anything like that, like they did in WBCMS. The CA sent a reminder email after 72 hours of a diary not being closed, and pay statements within a diary won't be pulled into the reconciliation unless they're in the closed status, which means they've been reviewed by the CA. The title is not a required field, but I highly recommend to go back. I highly recommend it to go back and find a particular diary or operation. So please use the title accordingly. The subject requires the selection of either a tender item, a change order, or a compensation request. Now, if you choose a tender item and has nothing to do with payment, it's simply the critical path. So try and select the critical path item that you are inspecting that day, or whatever item is most relevant to that diary's inspection notes. Certain diary categories will open up new fields. So concrete, bituminous, and traffic will open up new fields underneath it. Concrete delivery tickets are to be linked into the concrete type diary. So if you choose concrete, there's going to be a field that opens up to link concrete diary ticket or concrete delivery tickets. And it's recommended that you click the pop-out feature to expand the diary notes. So there's a little arrow with us inside of a square that I'm sure we're all familiar with. This right here. Underneath, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but beside the red time field here to the left, you click that and you get a whole page to type into. There's lots of room for you to type notes. The case section intakes all inspection tasks, so make sure that you're disposing your case inspection tasks in there. You can keyword search it, or you can click default and manage the views to customize all the column headings if you like. You can also multi-select case inspections. This pulls up, this is the picker right here. You can see there's a search option, so you can search based on number or keyword. Or you can use the default and play with the column headings and sort how it actually shows you. It has a built-in weather feature, but we had to turn it off because there's no way to edit the postal code for each individual project. So everything was reverting to St. Catharines. So we had to turn that off. You can use the manual weather in here now to input your weather recordings. Reference information allows you to link other things, so particularly diaries, so pay attention to that. If you are doing the same inspection tasks each day and you're using the copy feature, so diaries have a copy feature, you can choose an old diary, click copy, and it'll copy all the equipment, labor, and materials and everything else that's pertinent, all the tombstone information from that diary, so you can create a new one. So if you're doing paving every single day with the same equipment, you can just copy the previous days. But you should also link those diaries together. So link the previous diary that you copied to create a string of them, just for reference and audit. So we'll do a diary real quick. I'm sure most people on the call after three and some years, almost 3.5 years now, have created diaries, but I've got mine pinned down here. We'll create a new one here. We could say this diary is for the time material change order that I just did, 59. There it is. Diary category is maybe bituminous. You can see it opens up a bituminous section here. So if we expand this, you can get inspector's notes, location, station from station to station, the length, the width, the area, the quantity laid, and then the mixed temperatures. You can add mixed temperatures with times. So make sure that you choose the right time too, because that's important. Mixed temperature or air temperature at road surface. So that's based on the bituminous field inspector's diary, whatever that was called. I can't remember the name of it. Pay statements, very important. I think we covered pay statements later. So super pave. Say we were paving super pave. 17,000 tons. They did 1,000 tons today. Oh, mixed type. I'll delete this. There. Pay statements are required at the end of every subcode quantity, item quantity, or pay period. We've got the notes logs, the little expanse. Oh, where's my insert? Oh, I already clicked submit. Whoopsie. Create a new one. The notes log, click this little square. So you insert a line, click this square. You've got lots of room to make your note up here. Dispose the time again. Material testing. So you can link material testing records. So anything that you took that day. Here's the weather. Here's the automatic weather that's turned off. And then insert. You can choose your own weather along here. Lots of precipitation options here. And pay statements. We already did one of those. The previous one. All right. Some questions. Some item related case are not available in CMS. Okay, that's a good point. I will I'll link up with who is it, Maria's office, and see if there's been an update to the case. I think there has been, so we might be missing a couple items. Okay. Could something be done with the diaries where diaries cannot be changed by other users if created by you? Just thinking how it could be changed so that inspectors can see each other's diaries. It becomes challenging on bigger projects for inspectors to track what other inspectors have already noted without them being visible to everyone. Well, the request was to hide them. It's not possible to make them uneditable by each other when they're in the same permission group based on platform limitations, but there's nothing wrong with two inspectors recording the same work as long as they're not recording the same pay statements. But if they're making the same observations, it only solidifies the observation, I would say. Some cases are not including the drop down. Yes, I will meet up with the office that oversees the case and see if there's a new list. For CA Diary, there may have There may have notes to write which are not only limited to tender items CO and CR in subject box. Can other be added in subject drop-down list? There is another category in the drop-down list. In the diary category right here, other. And then it comes with a field that you type what the diary subject is. All right, pay statements is next. So contractors submit their quantities throughout the contractor quantities app once per week. I know they don't, but the general conditions GC 7.01.06 requires them to submit their contract quantities once a week. The grid's very brief for them. They just have to choose the from to dates, not the change orders. We got rid of that already. The contractor's quantities and the references. Process is nearly identical for CAs, except for CAs and inspectors will input quantities into a pay statement app in their diaries. So the two of them side by side look very similar. We teach this in the MTO course too, both what contractors and CAs do and see, and they're very similar inputs. Basically the item, the subcode, and the payment quantity with a comments field. All inspector diaries go to the CA for review. CA diaries are automatically reviewed, so the system recognizes if you're the CA and doesn't send it to yourself for review. So once you click submit, that's it, it's done. But inspector diaries go to CAs for review. Pay statements aren't pulled into a reconciliation until the diary has been reviewed, so just reiterating that. And the CA can overwrite the inspector's quantities if required. The inspector can also recall the diary, so if there's mistakes that have been made, I believe the CA can, and the inspector can recall the diary. I already did a pay statement demonstration there. I won't do one again. Selection of quantities, WBCMS allowed for multiple selection of subcodes at the same time. Can this be changed for CMS? Not very easily, no. Right now it has to be one by one per item. You've got to add the item and then add the subcode. Do ACA diaries go to CA for review? It depends what group they're in. If they're in the CA group, then the system will consider them a CA and it won't go to the CA for review. Material weight ticket suite. So it's the app is to be linked to the item that the material pertains to. So if whatever you're recording tickets for, if it's granular A or whatever, the new material weight ticket is recorded for each item. This allows the system to assign the input quantities to that item and then summarize them later. It's designed with mobility in mind, so you can use it on your mobile app if you want. And you'd have to upload a photo of the ticket as required, so you're able to use camera phone in the mobile app. Each ticket requires 3 inputs: the ticket number, the gross weight, and the net weight. And the gross weight is only required because of the Weights and Measures Act. Otherwise, we would have only had 2 inputs. Users can indicate the percentage that was dropped. So if they only drop a half load, you can indicate, okay, that was about 50% load, and the system will calculate the net weight of that load against it. The system will automatically calculate that net weight for you, and then you just click submit at the end once you upload a picture of the ticket. I know that's not a picture of a ticket, but it's a picture of construction at least. When all the tickets for the day have been received and input, the summary is generated. Note the summary tab at the top of the grid. So you've got material weight ticket and material weight ticket summary. When all the tickets for the day have been received, the summary is generated. Users select whichever item they link to material weight tickets and then click save. The system indicates all the tickets linked to that item with a summary of the total net weight, and then you click reviewed, and that's it. If you make a mistake in the ticket, you can write into mtocms.ca or MTO CMS at ontario.ca, and we can revert or delete them for you. So we'll go through one real quick here. We also didn't talk about bulk entries for jobs that have huge amounts of granular on them and they're receiving over 100 tickets a day. You can upload the summaries of them and input the total net weight as the total sum of all of them. As long as pictures or scans or something of the tickets get in there, then we are happy. Understanding that you can't sit there all day and have two people just inputting tickets through an app all day. It's meant to be as quick as possible. But if not, you can summarize it however you want. Just take a picture, like take a big picture over the table with a bunch of tickets laid out. Camera quality is good enough nowadays. You can zoom in and read those tickets. So yeah, you can work around it that way. We go to our material weight ticket suite here, start a new one. Say the inspector is Ryan. Ticket number, the item. Let's say granular A. You can say it was a partial load and that it was 75%. And then submit that. Oh, it wants me to do a photo. Yeah, right here. Oh, it wants me to attach a photo, but I don't have a photo on my work computer. It recognizes whether it's a media file or not, but you upload a photo and click submit, and that's all there is to it. Then you get your summary down here. You run a summary. Say I want everything for granular A. I don't know if I have any tickets for granular A here, but I usually use it. It's not working. It was item 15. There it is. See if there's any tickets linked to item 15. Nope. But that's how the summary works. You simply choose what item you want to summarize. So you're punching in tickets all day for granular A. Then you come to your summary, click granular A in your summary, and it would summarize everything here in a table for you. We can't make it so that only weight items show up in material weight tickets. We don't, the item index itself doesn't categorize them based on whether they're PQP or OPA adjustments or not. So there's no way for the system to know which those items are. What happens to the subcode quantity exceeded or lower than in the Q sheet when it's reconciled correctly? Does it sit in the system and do nothing? So if the material summary comes in higher than what the subcode quantity is or the tender quantity on the contract, it's not going to do anything other than QU to identify the need for a change order or an OPA or otherwise an investigation into why the quantities are so high. Maybe someone over excavated or something like that, and suddenly the quantities are higher than you expected. But the system's not going to stop you from doing anything functionally. Why does CMS allow inspectors to post quantities to a pay item even when no quantity exists under the associated subcode? Wouldn't it make more sense for CMS to prevent postings under? No, because inspectors are able to post over a subcode quantity because if the estimate made during the design phase of the project says subcode 511 is 12 tons of gravel, but it ends up being 14 tons. We want our diaries to reflect what was actually installed, that actual 14 tons. And it's up to the inspector and the CA to identify if there's been an overrun here and a change order or an OPA is required to adjust the quantity. but we still want that record. The reconciliation won't allow you to pay over the tender item quantity, so you can't take it that far. But as far as posting it in your diary, which is a record of the quantity that was installed that day, we want that to be accurate. We don't want it to say 12 when it was really 14, because we'll never know that it was 14. Change proposals. So tricky. Tricky. When filling out the CP grid, please input both the original bid cost of the work and the new proposal cost. So this is to the contractor, really. The contractor is the one who fills out the change proposal first. They fill out the original bid cost. So this is how much the original amount of work was going to cost. So, hey, we were going to do, you wanted it cast in place. I can do it precast for cheaper, or vice versa. So all the items that are involved with delivering that work, the sum of those items would be the original bid cost. And then the new items are the the new ways with the new prices to approach those. So it could be the same item. It could be abutments, and the abutments were going to be precast, but we're going to do them cast in place for cheaper. So it could be the same item in there, but it's going to be cheaper theoretically. And then it's going to show the savings. This is the total savings, not just the savings for the contractor's portion, but the total savings. Then it's up to the CA. So I told this to the contractors yesterday again, that they should be uploading the PHCC document for change proposals here, because it's a great way to break down what their proposal is, all the additions and subtractions to the contract, everything that's being removed, deleted, and adjusted. Because the CA needs to know that to determine the total net value and absolute value of the proposal. This is what the system bases its DOFMA on. It's not the contractor's input. It's your input into these two fields. It's very manual. We didn't want to set it up to be automatically calculating, because there are scenarios where there's $0 change proposals, or even positive value change proposals where they get more expensive sometimes, I've seen. So it's open to the CA, and it's up to the CA to properly calculate it. So here's a real life example. The savings is a difference between the original and the new cost of the work. This represents a full financial change to the contract. So we have original bid cost of 1.197 million, a new change proposal cost of 371,000. So the difference between these two is a change to the contract. It's also the savings, and then half of these savings, the contractor's half, is also a change to the contract. So the total absolute value of change is the savings, or the difference between the original and the new proposal cost, and half for the contractor's savings. So 826 plus 413. We have this too. So this is from a director's memo on change management. We'll make these slides available to you, so you can go through this example yourself. I'm not going to run through it because it's a lot of numbers, and it's probably not too much value in just reciting them all off to you. But you can use this the next time you're reviewing a change proposal for the CA recommended absolute and net value. We'll do a change proposal quick just so you can see what the contractors are dealing with when they're filling it out. So subject, what the type of proposal is. Let me make this bigger. Type of proposal, alternative method. The original bid cost was going to be $100,000. And then the new is going to be a bright new idea for a quantity of 1 for a cost of $50,000. Oops. There. You can see it populates up here automatically, the new change proposal cost, And then the estimated total savings is going to be 50,000. So split down the middle will be 25,000. So the absolute value of this will be 75,000 because we went from 100 down to 50 plus the contractor's savings of 25,000. There we go. We submit that, and then it comes to the CA. You can see its status is in review. Oh, this one is in review, CP16. You can send it back for more information if you need some more information on it. And then you're going to dispose internal review comments. So, you know, I've reviewed this. It looks like a good idea, blah, blah, blah. And then your 75,000. What? Oops, this is 75,000. I think this is 25,000. Wouldn't click in there. And then initiate DOFMA. Oops. I deleted those. Then you initiate DOFMA and get it approved. Then it becomes a change order. So the very last step is create change management. You create change management, and then that goes down the change management rabbit hole where you create a change order. Yeah, we'll cover that at the end, Terrence. Remind me. We'll cover working day statements on a complete state contract. I think we cover it in the CA course anyway. All right. DIT and PCR, something new. So the DIT and PCR was developed with a guy named Mike Pearsall and his group in the Provincial Office Engineering Department. The DIT is the Design Issues Tracker. It's very much like our PCR. And the whole goal was the design was to have it flow from the design phase through to construction. So they record all the issues they have during the design phase of the project, issues that arise, assumptions that they've made, worries that they might have, concerns, whatever, you know, engineering things that they had to engineer themselves around. All get included in the DIT, then it goes through an approval workflow and then comes to construction. So if construction encounters any of these issues, they're not reinventing the wheel. They can look and see, oh, okay, the design team actually anticipated this happening and maybe there's some mitigation suggestions in here, or otherwise maybe there's some information that would help us, or otherwise you can just point to the problem and say, hey, this problem that you thought was going to happen happened, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel explaining it all. And then it goes through and gets updated throughout the life of the contract as it's designed to do. And then when it's complete, you have one document that has the complete story of the design and the construction phase, right from conception through to completion. So when you're filling it out, it's important to include all these people. The top paragraph, you have to include all these people. These are mandatory people. This is from the PHCC form for the PCR document. This is all the mandatory distribution recipients that are required on it. And then these are optional ones. So traffic and electrical engineering delivery office, probably include those if it was an ATMS contract, things like that. So add these at your discretion, but you've got to add the top paragraph regardless. The app automatically pulls in several contract metrics. So you can see all these, all the advertising dates, all the dates, the extensions of time, the permissions are work dates, substantial performance dates. Then it does the financial summary. So all the compensation requests, the change orders, the OPAs, the total values of those. So you don't have to pull those in yourself anymore. Number of claims and value of claims, the number of change proposals pulled in. The only thing you have to do here is fill in the rationale for acceptance or rejection. That's the only thing that the system obviously can't do for you. And then it pulls in the overruns and underruns. So these are the ones that are, what is it, 15% and $50,000. more or less than the original tender quantity, it'll calculate the percent difference for you and pull them all in. It also does indigenous procurement, as the new PCR document includes indigenous procurement on it as well. So we'll do a quick DIT. We're talking about project construction reports right now, Scott. PCR or CPs. The deck title is PCRs, or DIT and PCR really. One more important thing, you can create a PCR in isolation of a DIT, so it doesn't have to be created in engineering and then passed on to you in order to have a PCR. I'm in a construction contract right now, and I'm going to start one from scratch in construction. Oh, the deck title did. Okay, thank you. It's my mistake. The design contract, so you can choose a design contract. Let's see. And then the construction contract. And this is how it knows how to pull in all those things automatically for you. I guess it's this one. Yeah. And then the CA assignment too, you can pull in. There it is. So Highway 401, location here. You see all these are blank right now, but if I save them, yeah, those are auto-filled. I save this and it's gonna automatically fill in everything for me. So here's the construction contract, all the dates. The work start date is a manual input field, so that wasn't filled in. Here's my compensation request. There's 13 of them, totaling 189,000. Value of open compensation requests is 578,000. Oops, I better address those. Value of open claims is 1,000, and then here's all the change proposals here and the overruns and underruns. Apparently there are none on this contract. And then you get into the general issues. So you go edit, and these are all pulled from the PHCC document again. It's just a carbon copy of that. So you insert your general issues, your environmental issues, safety issues, accident summary, special provisions, NSSPs, and you just fill them out. Here's the DIT PCR categories. Confirmation, yes. And my note was correct. All the way through. So it can be a little tedious, but like I said, it's meant to be kept open during the time of the project and updated as needed. So as you encounter issues, problems, good things, bad things, you come back to here and update them. And then the most important one, lessons learned at the bottom here. You can always expand this, get a nice big bubble to pop your lessons learned into. Yeah, the PCR can be maintained live. You just save it. So when you're done, delete that. You just click save. As long as you don't submit it, then it's fine. So don't hit submit, just keep clicking edit. Contractor quantities. So the contractors are inputted via date range, the CQs are. While there is a date of work field to input the specific date and item quantity was installed, the reconciliation still pulls based on the date range. So a contractor is only required to submit quantities on a weekly basis, not at the end of a not the end of a subcode quantity, item quantity, or pay period, like the CAs are for pay statements. So the reconciliation is based on pulling its date ranges in based on the date range of the CQ, but they can still backdate individual contractor quantities so that we know when they installed them. So if you create a date, so here the date of work is September 1st, even though the period start date is September 4th to September 7th, it's still going to pull in because it's still going to pull into reconciliation 16 because the date ranges. So the contractor navigates to the contractor quantities app and clicks new and puts the from to their contractor quantities and any attachments that might help. You can see here, this is reconciliation 16 with the period start and end date of September 4th to 7th. It's still pulling in that quantity of 9 because even though the quantity of 9 was backdated to September 1st, because it's based on the date ranges, not the date of work inputted into the individual subcodes. So the from to dates need to be carefully considered. Remember, you can't backdate a specific item. You have to backdate the whole date range of the CQ. If the desire is to backdate only a select item, create a standalone CQ. So if the contractor forgot an item and wants it on a previous pay, like say you're a couple of months behind on pay, but they want that item paid, they create a standalone contractor quantity, backdate the date range itself, and then submit it that way. So consider the below date ranges of CQ versus reconciliation. So here's our date range for the CQ. Here's our date range for the reconciliation. It's going to be skewed, obviously. All the quantities aren't going to be pulled into the reconciliation because they're cutting off the date ranges. The date ranges of the reconciliation and contractor quantities should align. Contractor selects the from to dates at the top of the form. The from dates can overlap, but for sake of ease, it's best practice to abut them. If you have to overlap them, make sure one is in closed status and paid before you overlap another one or have the contractor overlap one. There's no limits on date ranges. However, having multiple overlapping and open CQs or reconciliations can cause issues. I think a lot of people on the call have experienced that. So here's an example of having multiples open at a time. You don't know how they're going to pull in. The reconciliation is going to pull all of the second one in, half of the first one, and half of the third one. If the conflicting CQs are deleted, a reconciliation can be run for a single date range. So we can delete the CQs if we need to and then have them redone. Hopefully that's not the required course, but sometimes it is. Please note CQ cancellations are via the help desk. So if you need any help with payment, backing out a payment, we can pretty much back a payment out from everything except a processed invoice. So if it's about to be processed and their fingers hovering over that button and you stop them, we can back the invoice all the way out. We can cancel the reconciliations. We can back the pay statements out and the contractor quantities out, but not once it's processed. Once it's processed, those quantities are gone and out the window. When adding lines, you can use the insert here and you can add 10 beside it. So the contractors can, they've often do a whole lot at once. So you can add a 10 or a 20 in there and it'll add 20 lines at a time instead of just one. Once the lines are added, you click the drop down to select items, and then the subcode selection is the same thing. You can input quantities for each line with any comments. Lump sum change orders are posted against this way, as well as time and material change orders. So you pull them up in the item number list, just like any other item. And then once invoiced, the invoice reference will be backfilled by the system. So you can see over on the right here. Do I have a square for it? Yeah, over on the right, there's an invoice reference section that will help you backtrack and audit payments. Once a CQ is submitted and in submitted status and in ready for reconciliation stage, it's eligible for reconciliation. So in reconciliation means it's been aggregated into a reconciliation but not acknowledged. And then reconciled means it's all done and acknowledged and everything by the contractor and ready to be pulled into a payment. Then when you'll see it in paid status when it's been pulled into a payment. I think the ACA can enter into the PCI, yeah, as long as they're in the CA group and not in the inspector group. So I keep saying in the ACA, in the CA group and not in the inspector group, if you're put in two groups in the system is going to only apply the harsher of the penalties. So where the inspector isn't allowed to enter into the PCR, the CA is. If you're placed into both groups, the system's going to apply the harsher penalty and say you can't enter into the PCR. So if you're in the CA group, then you can. The MTO changes the groups, so contract services or my team. We'll do a super quick one here because I think it's pretty straightforward and you don't need to see too much about contractor quantities, but I think it's valuable for you to see what they're doing. So they choose a from to, so let's do last week's quantities here, the 29th to July 3rd. All I do is simply insert lines. I can come here and click show all. I can say add 8 lines and it'll give me 10. I can delete these and I can expand it and get a nice drop down here. So we'll do super pave again. I think we did 1,000 tons of super pave in the pay statement. Submit that and it's done. It's in ready for reconciliation. And you can guess what the next module is going to be. All right, reconciliation. So once the importance of dates between the CQs and pay statements are understood, the reconciliation process becomes easier. If you're aware of the rules surrounding inclusion in the reconciliation, you can plan the administrative process accordingly. So it should hopefully become routine for you to post and reconcile quantities. So recall the distinct differences in dates. There's the date of work for the individual line item in the pay statement, the date of work the diary was reviewed, which is when it's actually pulled into the reconciliation based on, the date range of the contractor quantities record, the date of work in the individual line item in the CQ, the date range of the reconciliation, and the date range of the invoice. So these are all important when it comes to including items in the diary, and they're all important. They all exist for an important reason. Like the date range of the date the diary was reviewed. That is important because that's when the quantity was made eligible on the contract, made eligible for reconciliation, and when the CA said, okay, this is good to go, basically. But if the diary wasn't done every day, we still want the CA to have the ability to backdate items and show us accurately when the work was installed, because that's what we use these pay statements for. It's not good enough to know we did 15,000 tons of asphalt in the month of June. We need to know where those subcodes were installed, when they were installed throughout the month of June, and that they were reconciled and paid at the end of June. So the two dates are important there. It is recommended to run reconciliations on a weekly basis when possible. That's what the GCs are set up for, the contractors to submit on a weekly basis and for you to run reconciliations on a weekly basis. Then there's only ever 1 week's worth of quantities to worry about. You do it every single week, you get to the end of the month, you've still only got the 4th week of the month to worry about. It should be fresh in your memory. There's a few quantities to actually worry about, and then you can hopefully push it through cleaner than waiting until the end of the month. So here's the data work again, just reminding you, that it's not going to be pulled in. Here's a payment of 10. So the date of work is the 1st and the 8th, but still going to be pulled in. There's the quantity of 10 right there on reconciliation 23 because it was backdated, but the date the diary was reviewed was still within the reconciliation period. Reconciliation process is designed to be done regularly. The system captures the dates of CQ pay statements completion. So if a user is trying to catch a payment up from 2 months prior, by making CQ and pay statements today, it won't pull in properly if the reconciliation and invoice dates are reflecting those past dates. So if you don't do your diary for a month, you can't backdate your diary and have the quantities pull in. The invoice would have to be caught up to the date that you did your diary. In these cases, simply backdate the invoice and record a note on the invoice or attach a memo stating that it's a catch-up payment. I won't go through this again. I've hit this home, I think. Negative reconciliations and postings do not work. So once you pay a quantity, that's it. You can't correct it by doing a negative quantity adjustment against it. You can do a negative quantity adjustment through a change order or an OPA if there's quantity remaining on the item. But say you accidentally paid 100% of an item, there's no way to negatively take that back once it's been processed. But there are several steps. There's the inspector making the pay statement, the CA reviewing it, the CA reviewing the reconciliation, then the contractor drawing the invoice, the contractor submitting it, then the invoice going through CA review, CSA review, CST review, and head of contract services review. So 4 levels of review. So hopefully it gets caught before then, but mistakes do happen. So let's see if we can reconcile that SP12 that we did. Start a new one, and it was for here to here. Oh, but it's not going to pull in today's diary because I did it today. So I will do the reconciliation up to today. So this will capture all the contractor quantity and the CA quantity. It should at least. Oh, there's our change order, and there's a change order that I did yesterday for the contractor's traffic control, 50%. So there's our 1,000. So it shows the contractors, the inspector quantity, and then the reconciled quantity. We submit that to the contractor. Pending acknowledgement here. And then I acknowledge that as a contractor, and now it's reconciled. And this is what I was talking about before. This is reconciled. Once it gets linked to an invoice, it'll be paid. And next we're going to talk about invoices. We are about 30 slides, 35 slides from the end, folks. Thank you for bearing with us. Okay, most of the invoice were, questions. For payments, what should be done when the Q sheet subcode quantity is listed as 1, but the CMS quantity for the subcode is 0.999? I know that's annoying. The contractor has the ability to, they don't have a limitation on the amount of decimal places they can post. So maybe they can do like a 0.999, but I think what I was told by KPMG, if you try and put 1 in there, and it reverts to 0.99, it's actually reverting to 0.99999579924, whatever the remaining amount is. So try putting in 1, and if it automatically reverts to 0.99, it should be covering everything that's left under that item. Once the reconciliations are complete, a contractor simply needs to know which reconciliations to include and what their dates are, and they have access to the reconciliations, obviously. The invoice date range simply captures all the from and to dates within its own range. So only the person in the service provider contact spot can submit invoices for either the contractor or the CA. So this is in the contracts app, in the party section, so the service provider contact and the service provider contract signer need to be the person who's submitting invoices. That's a platform limitation or a platform requirement that comes with the system. So that person clicks new in the invoice app, fills out the date ranges, and then the distribution list, which is like carbon copying people, sends them an FYI. The notes can always be helpful if there are, especially if it's a late invoice. This is auto-populated from that tab that I was showing you earlier, the party section. Please don't edit the record IDs, or if the contractor's editing them, please ask them to stop. It just makes things really difficult, but it's impossible for us to lock that down. If we remove their ability to edit the invoice, we remove their ability to generate it and submit it too. So again, it's just the way the platform's set up, but it makes it really difficult to disentangle invoicing issues when this record ID is, each different invoice is called something different. CA invoices are different but simpler. So users input their monetary or their hourly quantities against either lump sum or unit price items. Change orders appear on the invoice automatically, and then you post against them. They appear to automatically defaulted to pay 100%. So you have to go in and manually tell them not to pay 100% otherwise. You can see here, there's 2 change orders below against the CA contract right here. They appear at the bottom of the invoice over here with a percentage against them. So it shows the total percent complete already, previously paid amount, an amount that you're paying here. So I'm paying 5 million and 100,000. There should only ever be one in-flight invoice at a time. I think most people know this now, but each invoice is interdependent on each other. So it requires the first invoice to finish, be closed, and have an output. And by output, I mean the quantities and the values on the contract are only updated when an invoice is processed. So if the first invoice isn't processed, the second invoice is going to take the same numbers and draw down the same numbers, and it's not going to work. It needs to know what the output of the first invoice is in order to know the input of the second invoice, and so on and so forth. The Act requires the ability for a contractor to submit an invoice at any time, so we can inhibit them. We could install a validation to say, nope, the previous invoice isn't done, you can't submit another invoice, but the Act prohibits us from doing that. The majority of all invoice issues we have encountered is due to either multiple in-flight invoices or contractors manually inputting quantities into the invoice, which is a loophole that we identified later last year, and we have buttoned it up, but the contractors were basically clicking edit on the invoice and then filling in quantities and circumventing the reconciliation, which the reconciliation, I should have mentioned this during reconciliation module. The reconciliation also serves as our notice of non-payment. So the Construction Act states that the owner shall furnish the contractor with any quantities submitted for payment that they won't be paying. So if the contractor submits 12 and we say we're only paying 10, we have to give them a notice of non-payment stating that you're not getting paid the full 12 that you wanted. That is our reconciliation. It shows our amount, their amount, and what the final payment amount is going to be with an acknowledgement box for them to tick beside it. And they have to acknowledge each item line by line. So it's very important to do the reconciliation. So when they're manually entering into the invoice, they're circumventing that notice of non-payment process, but they're also, when they input manually into the invoice, it doesn't draw down quantities on the SOV. So the invoice gets processed, nothing gets updated, then they do it again, nothing gets updated, and then by the third one they go, hey, why is my previous paid and to date columns not adding up properly? And it's because they're manual entering, and there's no way for us to really fix it at that point. So I talked about this. Service providers, so CAs and contractors are permissioned to delete their own invoices. They just have to be in draft. They have to be deleted in reverse descending order as well. So the most recent or the highest record ID, and then the second highest, and then the third highest, and so on and so forth. This is old. We don't have to catch up invoices anymore. Invoicing is mostly automated. It's based on upstream activities. So change orders approved and posted against, OPAs processed, claim payments settled and accepted, items that are reconciled, item quantities that are reconciled, I should say. It functions much like WBCMS does. You set the cutoff dates, generate, then submit, and an invoice will produce a complete report with sections A through D, very similarly formatted to the PHCC form. So you've got the general details here, and then your section A, section B, C. Section B is not subject to holdback. Section A is subject to holdback. Now we'll do an invoice. It's in contract management now. So you go to contract management, invoices. Oh, I've got one in draft here. So this one has the same dates. Let's see if I can pull in the items that I posted yesterday. It's not pulling them in. Let me delete this. What was the reconciliation dates again? Oh, 6/29 to 7/7. $629 to 7/7. Let's go one more just to make sure. 6/28 to 7/7. This is the slowest app we have. It's the most complicated as far as calculations go. Click generate and see if it draws anything in. There we go. So there's 117,000 in tender items. Looks like we might have some other stuff. Oh, that's the holdback. And then OPAs, every OPA that is on the invoice is going to be here. Any liens, any claims, the contractor quantities is shown here. So here's the super pay of 12.5 we did today, the change order that I did yesterday during the training, and this was a contractor quantity I did yesterday during the training. It shows the quantities right there. And then comments and references. And then the contractor submits that and it gets reviewed. All right, moving right along here. Information and compensation requests. We'll go through this quickly. Getting towards the end of our rope here, time-wise. So IRs are fairly basic. There's a mandatory subject field. Contractor selects the reason and then fills out the details section. Responses to information requests are provided within the same record, so not via INC. You respond within the actual IR. Status section shows how many days have passed, so that's handy. We all know 20 days to review an IR, but it should be as quick as possible. You can either issue a response, issue a change order, or respond that it is not an IR. This is for veiled or overt requests for compensation. That's the word I was trying to think of earlier. Very similar, the compensation requests are very similar to information requests. CRRs are built into it, so you can fill it out directly within here. I believe there's no line limits, so you can write as much as you like. Or there might be a line limit, but I think it's like 1,500 or something like that, or 500. Responses to CRs are also provided within the same record. So in the decision section, you include the rationale and quantum. Be aware that whatever the CSA inputs into the CSA recommended total net and absolute value fields for the CR are what is going to appear in the compensation request, or whatever the final compensation request field that is filled out, that's going to appear to the contractor. So if you negotiate at a lower rate than what you got DOFMA permission for, it's going to show that to the contractor. You can change in your change order amount and disclose what the actual value is going to be in the rationale section of the decision box. But that's what we were talking about a little earlier this morning. You get DOFMAs for CRs within the system as well. Change orders are linked to CRs. Please make sure that you link your change orders to your CRs or vice versa. So when the CR is finished and the contractor accepts the decision, the final stage is create change management. Make sure you click that create change management button, because it creates a link between the CR and the CO. And we use that link to pull reports and understand how much we're settling things in the field with the contractor. Because if we answer a CR with a CO, that is settling something in the field, and that is important information to us. Contractor has the option to either elect provincial office claim, dispute resolution, or accept the decision. The DOFMA for time will circle first up for financial approval, then for time. Then for money. So the system can't do both at the same time. So it's going to have to first cycle up for one, then cycle up for the other. So if there's a compensation request for both time and money, it'll have to cycle twice. Once up to the head of construction for time, and then twice, however high it needs to go for the compensation amount. The status section shows how many days have passed again. So again, it's pretty useful, especially for CRs. We know their time, what do you call it? Time sensitive. I've got CRs pinned here. I'll do one really quickly just to show you what the contractor goes through. Changing the work. So as these pop out, you've got different information or assistant note fields. This an unresolved change order price negotiation according to GC. That's what they would choose after they click accept undisputed amount on the change order, because they disagree with the amount of a change order being paid. And then you have to actually select the change order that you disagree with. So I'll select the one we created this morning. Save that. Oh, asking Nick. I need to actually ask for some compensation. Insert here. Compensate me. Then the CA gets their CA RRR. I know you guys all love these things. Filling these out for every CR that comes in. But you can see you get plenty of room. And then the CA recommended total net and total absolute value. You got to fill out these two. And then there's a CSA recommended amount too. Oops, what did I click? So the CSA reviews it, sees the CA's recommendation. It's recorded on file, but then sometimes the CA will make recommendations that the ministry changes. So we design it this way so that the CA gets to maintain their recommendation, their CRRR, and then the CSA can make their own recommendation and justify it through the comment or their own CRRR themselves if it's different than the CA's recommendation. So maybe the CSA is only going to recommend 8,000 because I know secret information about this, and they submit for approval. Then it goes through DOFMA. Some questions. During the review of the CR by MTO staff, do we have a box to add comments? Yes, there's a comment box for the CSA in the CSA review section. I think this is happening on other apps, but I noticed it on the CR yesterday. There doesn't seem to be a scroll bar on the side of the input box. It's just an X that deletes the entry. So reviewing what is input if it exceeds the size of the box is difficult. I see. Sounds like breadcrumb issues. Try control scrolling. So if you hold control and scroll the wheel, why isn't it working? There we go. Then you can move in and out. So that might free up some space on the screen and reveal a scroll bar. Can the contractor see CA recommendations section? No, absolutely not. If IR or CR is stuck with the CA or CSA who is on vacation or away, how can the task be deleted? You can email us at mtocms@ontario.ca and we can delegate that for you. I believe the CSA can delegate it too, but if the CSA is the one who's away, then they can't. How to create a table, show figure and analysis box and CRRR recommendation. You can't create tables or anything like that. You would have to upload that as an attachment. If a table or a photograph or a chart or a diagram or a drawing or anything is going to support your recommendation, you'd have to attach that in the attachments. Road Report 2.0, okay. So Road Report 2.0 has absorbed the OSCLIS process that serves the OO Permits Office. It was developed with OO Permits, Structures Office, Ontario 511, and Policy Office. It also has enhanced fields to intake data to better serve Ontario 511. All the business rules still apply, and the user will set up a group consisting of the email recipients. So we can set up those groups for you or the contacts. The distribution list has to be populated, and it sends the road report to whoever's populated in the distribution list. So make sure because each region does road reports differently. They have different people submitting them into the system that they get submitted into. So make sure we have got it in the contacts list of the system and it'll pull up in distribution list for you. So I'll just do a quick demo of it. It's the easiest way to show it. Road report 1 has been decommissioned, but we keep it there so that we have the records. So distribution list, most important. You uncheck that box. If I search OO, there's my OO permits office. There's Northeast Region OO permits office. I won't actually add them because I don't want to send them a bad report. I'll send it to myself. Emergency contacts, so you need emergency contacts in here. All of them that apply. Maintenance contact supervisors, whoever they are in the area. Is the contract completed? This is always going to be no, except for your last week or before winter shutdown. Dispose the region. You've got to do all this stuff the first time, but after that you can copy. You can copy existing road reports. We should have all the highways in here. This is taken from a database. So you can search highways. There's 401, direction of travel. Same thing. It's either, hey, where's, both, there's east, west, north, south, whatever it is. So we'll say this is a restriction in the east. And then the LHRS, I forget how it works, 12.5 or whatever. Start date, end date, and then contract start latitude, longitude. So this comes from Google Maps. So you're going to fire up your Google Maps. Zoom in down to wherever your restriction is. Say this ramp is closed. Then come here. 42. And do the same thing over here. Throw it here. And the important part is you take the URL up here and paste it there. Click add, and then it gives us a link to click on. Is it a full closure? No. So is it a lane restriction or ramp restriction? It's a ramp restriction. Type of barrier on site is going to be TC54s. Other specific restrictions, full ramp closure. And then your suggested detour in here, if it exists. Here's your ramp restrictions. So I pop this open to make it easier to fill out. So my ramp location is whatever that underpass is. Direction of travel is, I think it's west to north-south. Ramp, it's a full closure. And then I don't know if we need that other stuff or not. I think most of this stuff is required. Oh, Google Maps is required. There. Frequency is required. Oh, here we go. Ongoing 24/7. And that gets sent out. So that's all you've got to do each week. And then after that exists, you can copy it. So I can copy this and create a new one for the next day. All the information's already in here. I can just edit it as required. Or copy it for the next week. These are due every Thursday by noon, I believe. So I think most regions just say Wednesday by end of day. Okay, statement of working days. I think this is the last thing to cover. CPR, yeah, we're almost done, folks. Thank you for the presentation and posting. When does the video get posted? One of my ramps doesn't have the proper location direction. Is north to north-south. When does the video get posted and where? So it'll get posted. I'll show at the end of the training where it will be posted. It will be posted soon. So statement of working days. In an effort to better track contract time, statement of working days are now required for both working days and completion date contracts. The statement of working day won't affect the contract time for completion date contracts. So it's not a functional thing. It's really just meant to capture the controlling operation of each day, but it only strives to record the control. That's what I just said. I'm a little ahead of myself. So you input that and submit it. The claims section came to us and said, we want to build an app that will capture the controlling operation of the contractor each day. And I said, well, we already do that in the statement of working days app, just make it required for completion date contract. And so we did that instead of creating a new app for it and creating new policy surrounding it. So this is backed by policy now. I don't think it's very well known. I don't think many people are doing it, but I hope people will start doing it on completion date contracts because it really helps the claims folks when they're battling on a completion date contract. Parents, do you want me to go through an example of this statement of working days? I'll just show why we want it for completion date as well as working days, because it's valuable information. Period start date is last week. Name of contractor is me. Save this. Oh, I already have another range from yesterday's training in there, so I'll start this range. So it gives you all the previous time data here. So originally 100 working days, time change of 68 days, 168 days total. We've charged 13 to date. Days charged this period is 7. Total days remaining 147. And then down here, this is why do we still need to complete and distribute the original road report in addition to submitting the road report to in CMS? No, I've been told by OO permits they just want the digital copy. It's a digital version of the Excel. And this is why we want the controlling up, or why we want statement of working days on completion date contracts, because you record the controlling operation. For each one, you can say whether they worked that day or not, still useful for a completion date. And that's it. CPR, one slide on CPRs, and then I'll show you the closing stuff and we're out of here. So it functions much like the WBCMS version. So you complete the workbook outside. We have not digitized the CPR. It's 72 tabs of integrated calculating fields, and it's way, way, way too much work and time for us to integrate it. In fact, we have a new CPR now anyway. So with each change, we would have to make major changes in the system. It's not worth it for the money. So you calculate everything in the Excel workbook and then transpose these main subcategories into CMS, and that's it. Workflow corrections to the appeals process, so it doesn't require to progress through all levels of appeal now. And the Secretary Qualification Committee will receive a notification for any rating below a threshold. So in CPRs for contractors, it's currently it's 65. If they score below 65, a report of poor performance is due by the CSA, and the secretary gets notified, because that needs to go to the committee for a report of poor performance. And for engineering service providers, so such as yourselves and the engineering, like on the design side of things, it's a rating below a threshold of 3 goes to the qualification committee. There's embedded learning videos, so I'll show you where we're going to post the videos. If you pull up the CASE app, it was the most common app. So we can link videos to apps, but they can't be out of the box apps. They have to be custom apps by us. So we chose the CASE because it's the most general app we could think of. Once it opens, you right click on the left, click videos and documentation, and there's all the training videos in here. These ones are all chaptered up. So there's previous CA training, contractor training, general functionality training. I highly recommend the payment training. It's everything to do with payment. I think that's September 2024, September 2023. We also have, if you search mixed designs, there's training on that. Material lab testing training video. And if you search MISX, there's training materials on that one. So the material lab testing training that we did in July, and nothing's really changed on it since then, so it's still relevant. You need to complete a statement of working days for a completion date contract so that the claims section can better track the controlling operation of the contractor each day. For completion date contract, how will the original allotted working days be calculated? The statement of working days app doesn't calculate or change or alter the completion date by any means. It's kind of disconnected from it, so it's not going to affect the working days or any calculations. And yeah, are we going to get recording of today's training? Yes, this is where it'll be attached in the case app, and we will upload the slides to technical publications. That's all I have today. So thank you. 5 minutes over. Oh, the Claims app. Thank you, Catherine. The Claims app has Claim Suite training as well. So if you open claim, oh no, CAs can't open claims. Never mind. But if your contractor is looking for it, contractor can open claims and view the claims training in here. Yeah, that's all I have. So thank you for coming and bearing with us for 3 hours.